Yeah, oh, excuse me. You ready, Mr. Chair?
I'm ready, but wait for Lynn to come back.
Oh, no, what do we do?
You have to click off.
Oh, well, I gotta.
Oh, are you recording it?
But can you hear the feedback? You ready, Mr. Chair?
I'm ready, but wait for Lynn.
I know what to do. Hold on, give us a second. I know exactly what's going on.
Oh, are you recording?
But can you hear the feedback? Give me 1 second. You ready, Mr. Chair? I know what to do. Hold on, give us a second.
A nice loop going there.
Steven. Oh, you? No, just check your phone.
That's all good. Got all the goods now.
All right, good evening, everybody. Good evening. Today is February 26th, Monday, February 26th. This is the meeting of the City of Providence Recreation Advisory Board. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Chairman Simon,
Here.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
Here.
Councilwoman Vargas.
Here.
Jenna Lafayette.
Here.
Kenneth Phillips is absent. We have 4 present and 1 absent. We have a quorum.
Great. It's the order. It's an exciting day, everybody. This is our first meeting that we are doing actually out in the field. We talked about this as a group for since we just started meeting in November. And so we have an exciting agenda tonight. Most exciting, we're going to hear from Lynn Johnson, who is the center director here. For folks that are with us at home, we had the chance to tour the facility today with Ms. D. Thank you very much for the tour, Ms. D. We appreciate that. It was a great tour and so much vibrant activity going on in here. And so we're excited to hear from you. Other items on the agenda today is that we will start to have a discussion related to the city budget. As you guys know, as a board, one of the things that we are actually tasked with is making recommendations and advising the city and the recreation director in particular when it comes to the city budget. So we'll start to have a conversation around that at this meeting. And then we'll have some updates relative to basketball and soccer leagues that are, basketball league is currently underway, soccer league in the planning, and then we'll have an opportunity for public comment. So I would also recognize Director Stephen Grace, who's with us today, who is not an official member of the board, but always here with us in his capacity, sharing his knowledge and resources with us to help us do about that. So we'll start off with Ms. Lynn Johnson. Before you start to speak, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all that you do for the city. We know that you and all the rec center directors really put your heart and soul into these places, and you know, you touch thousands of lives throughout your career and hundreds of lives a day that come through here. And so as a city, we're incredibly thankful for the work that you do. The place looks great. I'm sure everything has their, you know, every place has their little quirks and things that can go better, but we're excited to hear from you about the center. Again, thanks for the tour, and really, I speak on behalf of the whole board when we say thank you for the work that you do for the city. Really, thank you.
Well, you're very much welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, well,
Oh, and sorry, just before we start, what I talked to Director Grace about is as we're out in the field and having meetings at the different rec centers, we're gonna make space about 10 minutes at the beginning of each one of our meetings that we have at the centers for the directors of the centers to give us a brief presentation on the types of things that are going on in the rec centers, the programs to offer, the amount of kids that they see, just have a chance to have some back and forth and discussion about each individual center. So
Sure.
Again, then thank you very much.
you're
Floor
welcome.
is yours.
Okay, well, we are excited that the committee chose us first, so we thank you for being here. Our center is very unique in the sense of, we have 11 centers, but everybody has their own theme. Ours is we kind of open the floodgates for any and everything for our kids. So our programming is anywhere from pickleball to wiffle ball to, and every center, some kids don't want to, but that's quite all right. Our presentation is, pretty much self-explanatory, so.
And then go to slideshow.
While they're setting that up, we are one of the busiest centers in the city. And just because of the diversity that we have in our programming.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Hopefully. Do we need to enter this presentation as an exhibit?
Please.
Okay, so I'm gonna, is there a motion to enter, Ms. Lynn's presentation in as exhibit A? So moved. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Well, this initial picture is the beginning of our summer, which starts our programming. This is part of our camp. And this is actually kickball day, so these are some of the kids and the staff with our kickball, let us tell it, we're the best in the world, but yeah, we haven't beaten anybody, but that's okay. So that's the initial picture. We are fortunate to have all of our rooms available for activity. So the first room you would walk in and see is our game room, which has shuffleboard, which we have shuffleboard tournaments. It also has there's an Xbox and ice hockey, just various games. That's kind of the retro room because kids nowadays, they look at the game sideways, but the community room, this is usually where we have our dinner. This is usually where we have our arts and crafts or creative arts. This is a puzzle time room. So all the activities that are not pertaining to sports are usually happening in this room. We have our computer room, which stays busy every day because that's where the kids are now. So we run anywhere from coding to their regular individual gaming on the computers. Our playground stays active. And that's an everyday thing, whether it's our center sending kids out or just the community. That's a busy playground. Our water park and pool. Our water park is new. We actually got that last summer. And it's a hot ticket because we have the new bell and whistle. So we got quite a few kids this past summer. So we're highlighting that this summer is that we have the new fancy water park. And our pool is one of the smaller pools in the city, but it stays active and we get our decent amount of youth that come out. Last is our field, which is the baseball field, football field, soccer field, all in one. That stays busy basically year round. That's adult programming and youth programming. We have 3 of the schools that also use it, which is Gilbert, Achievement First, and the Met. They all schedule timing so that they can be active on the field as well. That's basically our complex here. There's inside and out. The programming, most programs that we have, the city provides us with the rec league, obviously, the camp and the swim meets. A lot of the other programming, you kind of have to be creative at your own center. Some things are free. Sometimes you have to get sponsors and grants and, people to help out. We're fortunate to have Councilman Taylor, and we're also fortunate to have Scott Slater, who are constantly in making sure that, this is their award, making sure we have the essentials for ours. So bocce ball is, probably the only center in the city right now that has 2 bocce ball teams that we play in the summer. There's a court in Federal Hill.
Yeah.
And it's a program over there, and we as usual, load up the van and go over there and.
Is that a kids league or adults league?
Well, it's mixed.
Yeah.
There are police officers that help sponsor that. That's Lights and Sirens. And so the mayor came out a couple of times.
Yeah.
And so our age is usually from 8 and 9-year-old to we get some high school kids. Whoever wants to learn the game and go every Saturday and play. We don't have no criteria. It's just out the box programming for our kids. And they love it. So We lost in the championship this past summer to Providence Police Department, so,
Wow.
yeah. So, for kids, who've never played bocce to end up, it's just a fun time.
Yeah.
The Game Day Breakfast Club, we started that about 4 years ago. Whenever we host games at home, we usually put out a breakfast spread for the kids. Just because they're coming here and you don't know their situations and it's kind of open for everyone. At the end of the day, just to serve breakfast on Saturdays, the coding classes. That is also something that we started last summer, just again to give kids opportunity to learn coding because that's not offered everywhere. We had a few kids, but we're hoping to push again that more this year. To treat a student to a cut, this is our second year. We sign up the first 10 to 15 kids who need haircuts, and we pick a barber that partners with us, and we take the kids out to get haircuts for free. And again, that's just an in-house program that we do.
And I will say in the context of Lynn does it all. Last time I was here, my son's basketball game, I asked where Lynn was. And they said that she was out, taking kids to get their haircut.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So Lynn truly does do it all.
Yeah, the God's House Church program, it's a local church and it's one of few that come here and they donate hygiene products or underclothes, anything we need that to help around Christmas time and Thanksgiving. They usually come in and help with meals. We have to be, sensitive as to what meals, but usually generic meals for the kids to have for Thanksgiving. Masterclass, that's mandatory for our staff. We have a lot of high school and college kids. The masterclass is us teaching them the things that you're not necessarily going to learn. How to budget a checking account, owning your voice, the professionalism of jobs, just some of the everyday life that this is a job, but we also shame on us if we don't help these kids, these high school kids and college kids, get the opportunity to better themselves. So the master class is something in-house as well, and it's mandatory because you never get enough knowledge. And so that's something we honor and hang our hats high on, the master classes. We have movie night, You Are Queens, we are trying that this year. And all that is just female empowerment. That's something that every center has. We have girls clubs, but we are trying to frequent that more because in the city, the girls' population is not as high as the boys. So that's another program we're throwing out there just to, even if we started with 5 or 6 kids, but that's our program. Every center has their own program that they run. Movie night is usually on Fridays. We'll put a movie on and have the kids just kind of hang out and have popcorn, and we have a grill over there and we'll grill some cheese sandwiches and blah, blah, blah. Just a hangout night, the video tournaments. Enough said in that, kids they all play video games. And so we have the PlayStation and it's a hot ticket. You put the bracket up and, and the game room activities, which is shuffleboard and the board games. We have tournaments in just about every room. If you pulled out some sticks, we have a stick competition just because, it's kids love a little challenge, and everybody gets the reward at the end. So we stay active with that as well. Long Pond, so just a little history on West End. This was kind of the Upper East Side at one point, where it was a very wealthy area. The locals kind of, but like anywhere else, they didn't appreciate the wealth in this neighborhood. So they started throwing things. This used to be a pond. And so the wealthy houses used to be around the pond. So people used to come and throw items in the pond. And so they got fed up with throwing so many items where they couldn't ice skate or anything. They decided to fill the pond up. And so underneath this, in our whole block, it's called Long Pond. So the history on this is, all this was nothing but water. That's from the train tracks all the way down to where Dexter and Buckland meet, all the way as far past Cranston Street.
Yeah.
Pass on to. So that's our history. Sometimes we have merchandise that says Long Pond because the kids need to know. the history of West End or Buckland.
Yeah.
So all of this property here is on a pond called Long Pond. So we have a picture on the side, so our attendance is usually higher than most just because we offer a lot of programming. Some work, some does not, but that's okay for us.
That's January, February of this
Yes,
past January, February.
yeah. So, and those are just some of the things that, again, we highlight here, that we have in-house. We always have dodgeball leagues. We always have pickleball. The kickball will start in another 2 weeks once basketball ends. And wiffle ball, we usually do in the spring. These are all programs, again, that are year round, that not a lot of centers run, but again, that's okay. Some
Yeah.
kids might not be interested in playing. We just throw it out there. We get 2 or 3, then it's a big to do. Yeah, so special events, again, I mentioned that Representative Slater, he sponsors our 10U programming that starts in 3 weeks. Councilman Taylor, he does the Easter egg hunt.
What's 10U program?
10U is, it's gonna be a basketball skills and drills / league. We have one with the city now, but it ends in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And that's the age group we're trying to keep, doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what center you're from. We're just opening up the doors so that if you have a 10 and under and you want to continue the skills and drills, the councilman will, he sponsors it so they get shirts and they play every week to be active. So that's what that is. Yeah.
That's something we should promote across the city then.
Yeah, it is. So I've reached out to some of the other center directors, just because, and I'm sure they do have some of their own programming.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
yeah. The Halloween and the Easter, that's all Councilman Taylor. The Leadership Award. I don't know what that is. We'll skip over that.
No, pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, so I've been doing this for a while. I've been involved in this for a while. That was definitely appreciated.
Oh, sorry. I'm not techie. I did something.
It's okay. I think you just have to. Yeah, I would stop sharing now.
Can we just go back to the last, we go back to the last slide or no? I can't. Look up.
That's often when you're not.
That's okay, we don't have to go back.
The back button.
Director.
Hit the left button.
Johnson?
I'm sorry. The left button.
Like the arrow right on your computer, left arrow.
That's it. We don't have to go back.
Or the arrows. Yeah, like.
Before you go, let me just say again, thank you for putting that together,
Yeah.
thank you for all the work that you did back.
Yeah.
I also want to give a thank you to Councilman Taylor and Representative Slater. Obviously, a lot of these senators work closely hand in hand with their members of their council, so we know how instrumental
That's right.
the members of the council and representatives are for putting the resources in,
Right.
but also their focus on the community, so we really want to acknowledge them as well, but thank you for the presentation, and thank you again so much for all the community staff too, and I'll open it up to other members at the door to see if anybody has any questions for Lynn.
I have a question about when we tour and we see another group playing in there. Do you rent out the gym or do you allow community groups to reserve it? How does that process work?
Okay, so the group that's in there now, we have a partnership with TVD Parks. And we also have a partnership with Providence Middle School. So what's in there now is a home. It's just kids having camaraderie. There's no league or anything. Hey, you want to have some kids, you want to come over and play? Cause it's all a neighborhood thing. And so PVD is playing Rogers. Next week we'll play PVD. And then, so it's just, that's just an informal thing. Just to keep the communication amongst our kids involved. Because it's not just, well, I live over here and we're just trying to win the gap. When we rent out, we try not to just because we stay so busy with our youth. I am not a believer of pushing kids out to get, for $50 rental, for 12 kids or whatever it is. So, no, we don't recommend any out from here. That's the same.
Health executive?
No, thank you so much, Lynn. This is awesome. And yeah, you definitely see, the work and time that you guys have put into this rec center. And do you guys do it here or do you go to?
No, so that's a program that was started with the main office, Recreation. They usually run a bowling league. And with the finances, they didn't do it this year, but we still pick up on doing some of the bowling responsibilities. Just because it's another avenue for kids to be active. Yeah, so the city usually runs it every year, so.
Councilwoman, do you have anything?
Yeah, I wanna say thank you, I'm very surprised. So you see something in my words, so don't worry. Don't worry, because I wanna take the cool things, all right, to bring over there, all right?
Very good, very
Yeah.
good.
Thank you.
Wait, how many staff do you have here? So,
A total of 13 on any given day, maybe 4 to 5 work. So, and again, not that we're on a budget of anything, but no, you
you
mean,
can
we,
speak freely here. Forget about that person sitting.
yeah, so, and that's why of the 13, 8 of them are still either have to be in high school or college. And if you're not meeting your standard, because we have a standard, then you can't work until you do.
Yeah.
So we're fortunate to have some good college kids and some very good youth that play in some of these high schools and active.
A
So
volunteer, you have an active volunteer base here that helps out?
we do. We also have junior staff. And that's the 11 and 12-year-olds that come in and think they're part of the staff, but they help
Set
with
up the
the,
chairs today.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
so they set up
You know,
for-
they do all the little things, and they get a T-shirt that says, that, junior staff, and they get all the treats because, I mean, they volunteer more
Yeah.
times than not. So we have that, and we do have some parents that do come back and volunteer. Yes, we do.
And like any volunteers from like the colleges, or do they come and offer?
We
any-
we do not, but there are some centers that do have a lot of college kids. We're unfortunate not to have a college nearby.
Yeah,
So we rely on some of the, facilities
Yeah.
and some of their staff to come in and help.
sure.
So,
I also had a question about the food. What percentage of kids do you think like use this as their primary source for dinner? And is that built into the budget through the city?
well, it's an after-school meal program that we have. It's a meal program and a snack program. And I would say if we averaged maybe about 140 kids, because of Pride, you're only gonna get about maybe 35 to 40 kids. When the lights are out, 90% of them wanna eat, So the meal program is definitely necessary. We don't get a lot of kids that grab the meals, but if you set them at the door, there's none at the end of the night.
Yeah.
So,
Can I also ask about girls programming specifically? So we've had a lot of conversations about, different programs and basketball leagues. And I know a lot of it, unfortunately, with girls programming is not uniform across the city just yet. Anyway, I know it's something we need to work on. What are the girls programs that are offered here?
so that's why we have the puzzle time. A
Yeah.
lot of girls don't wanna be active, and that's okay.
Yeah,
But that's why we have the shuffleboard. We have more girls that play bocce ball than we have guys that play bocce ball. Miss D has a competition here. Creative arts, they do a lot of creative arts. So we do some of the,
and there's the girls basketball league, right? Whereas-
correct. So we only have one girls team. This is because of the environment. There's a lot of young boys that come here. So the few girls we do get, we give them the stars and the moon. We're still trying to build our girls program, and that's with every other center.
Yeah.
Parents just don't want, their girls just hanging out, which is understandable. So we're still trying to create the bond with the schools to get the girls to come here.
Yeah.
So, and that's a work in progress for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And facility needs, what do you, I mean, even apart from facilities, what are the biggest needs that you see for the center right now? Whether it be facilities or other, what are the biggest sort of challenges that you face that you could be helpful with? And the reason why I say that is because we as a board feel, I think, really strongly about supporting you guys as much as we possibly can, making sure that you get the resources that you need, all those types of things. It's one of the reasons why we exist and why we're passionate about the work. So what do you see as the biggest challenges and where you need support?
Well, we here, where some of the centers are so programmed, and I can only speak for myself and our center.
Yeah.
You get so used to being self-sufficient, and you have to rely on your outside resources. Without the outside resources, we would struggle like a lot of the other centers. And I say that because the opportunity to really broaden the horizon has changed because everything has a price tag. And if you can't financially support, some of the things that you're doing, it's tough. We're fortunate to have some support system. And so our needs are very minimal compared to some of the other centers.
Yeah.
And not that we don't have any. The few is maybe more volunteers, the more outlets to get kids involved. Maybe we were talking about putting a pamphlet out for our center, but for all the other centers. Because a lot of centers, we have 4 schools around here, and 2 schools didn't even know we were a center here.
Yeah.
So just the
Yeah, it's one of the
communication.
things that we talk about a lot at
Sure.
board too, is the communication, making sure people know about the programs and the resources that exist within the centers. It's one of the things that we're talking about.
Correct. Yeah, that communication is huge for all of us.
Yeah.
And the lack thereof, no fault to us and no fault to the school, but I think if anything, the connection between the school and the recreation centers and the community centers should be a lot stronger than what it is.
Yeah, Director Grace is working on that.
Yeah. Yes.
Quick, question, Director, so when you say the communication, Director, with, the schools, is that something that you see more like visible impacted with the state takeover, or something that's always been kind of lacking in your opinion?
It's always lacked. Like we run our recreation league and they have a middle school league. The rules are so totally different. Like you can fail all your classes and still play school basketball. Whereas our criteria is totally different. But that communication should be our network should be better because no child should be able to play basketball or any sport if you got to have some report card. But there's no communication, so they're allowed to play, and then they look at the recreation centers like, well, what's wrong with y'all? That's big because in the long run, it really hurts our youth being able to get along, and there's no, like when they're acting up in school, we should know so that we can help with not the discipline, but it's not okay to disrespect a teacher or be out of line and then come here and have your grandest time. That's that's part of that communication that we certainly need.
Facilities needs.
Well, I'll grab a couple of cigarettes and a couple of we'll be here for a while. I don't smoke, but yeah, we'll be here for a while on facility needs. Every center needs, just some upgrades and upkeep. We haven't had a lot of the things, all our roof, all our, we just got our new floor.
Yeah.
That we've been asking for 7 years.
Yeah.
Every center needs so many,
Yeah.
repairs and supplies. But, in this day and age, you can only do so much because budget's kind of restrained. 5 centers need roofs. Who pays for that?
Yeah.
It's tough to kind of in this day and age to kind of just endlessly get things, but every center needs some things,
Councilwoman?
I'm glad that you mentioned that, in student grades here, youth. Can you hear that because we have to make it a some program, to have it maintained, all the facilitated. Because see something destroyed now, so it's cost more money, so you maintain it, so you take it longer. And then you can use it, we don't have to do that right now. So I hope that you can make a little program, can we have it, and maintain it, all the year or anything that we need it as soon as possible. But for peace sake, and we need a great, the facilitators.
well. And we're starting to make baby steps towards this stuff
Right.
with the CIP program, which is, you know, I give the administration a lot and the council a lot of credit towards authorizing that. I think it's a first step. It's something we haven't done in a long time. But we hear you loud and clear on facilities.
And I will say this, where we are now compared to where we were a few years ago.
Yeah.
Is light years, you know, it's night and day. So and again, I can only speak for my staff and we see the progress. Just because before you would have to put a request in that has to go here, that has to go there. 2 years later, someone's coming to fix your doorknob.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the urgent things are being more tentative, taken care of. So there are changes, but there's still bulk things,
Yeah.
leak ceilings and
Well,
Work in
thank you,
progress.
Director Grace, for being more attentive to some of this stuff. We appreciate you and the leadership. But obviously a lot more work to be done. And that's one of the things that, you know, we are gonna stay on top of. Anybody else have any questions or comments for Director Johnson? Lynn, thank you again, really.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
for all that you do every day in here.
Thank you.
Really, it's, we know you guys make the dollars stretch and that you guys work with like not a lot of resources. And so we're just incredibly thankful for you and the staff and for all the directors really. But since we're here tonight, I've shed the spotlight on you. Just thank you for making, you know, a better place for the kids that come in and out of here, for everybody that comes in and out of here really, but you really are touching the lives of so many people and we're just extraordinarily thankful for that. So thank you.
you're very welcome. And thank you very much for being here.
Also recognize, is here just for the record. How you doing, in the back? Well, that was amazing, but I think it actually is a good segue into our next, agenda item, which is, the budget. So the budget proposal. So everybody has full sort of background. The administration right now is in sort of budget gathering mode, right? All the departments are starting to get their budget requests in. The mayor is gathering those requests with his administration, putting them all together, seeing what the priorities are going to be. One of the things that we're tasked with through the city charter is making recommendations and advising on the budget proposal that Director Grace will ultimately submit, and we know that he is starting to work on that. Although I think is somewhat limited in, you know, what he can say right now while he's still putting everything together. The conversation I wanted to have tonight is around really sort of gathering our thoughts and the things that we've heard over the past couple of meetings, and putting together some thoughts and ideas and the types of things that we want to be talking about and making recommendations on, as Director Grace puts his budget together. So I wanted to have a general conversation tonight, and maybe at the next meeting, the mayor will submit his budget, I believe, formally to the council in April.
April 17th.
April 17th. Okay. So we'll have one more meeting before that, at least, with the opportunity to, I think, probably make a vote on some formal recommendations that we might want to do. But I wanted to use tonight for us, as a working group, to have a conversation about the types of things that we want to start thinking about as Director Grace puts together his budget, so that while he's putting together his budget, he knows what our thoughts are. And again, I think we take a more formal stance on it at our next meeting, but I at least want to start on that conversation today.
I had a question. When it comes to big things like the roof, does that come out of your budget or is that, no?
No, that would be out of, excuse me, public properties budget.
Okay,
And as the chairman mentioned, CIP and other funding that goes into those capital improvement or large infrastructure projects.
okay. And how much of a say do you have in some of those things that are needed and working in partnership to get those done?
It's actually quite collaborative. So Councilman Vargas can speak to this. When a council person has a recreation center like in their ward, it's us, public property, the directors of the center, myself, will walk through and we'll take a look at like what needs to be done and what funds should be allocated towards it. So that actually happens quite a few times before decisions are made. So I can use Igliozzi as an example, we walked through and talked about bleachers, talked about the paint on the walls and the flooring and some of those things. That was last year. Now some of those things are starting to actually happen since the funding has been allocated, but that was collaborative. So it's based on need, obviously, of the center, but then the council and other, state reps and who controls funding like that in public property, we all make a decision on what's needed in the center.
Yeah, and the other piece, again, just to remember on facilities is that, like, I was at Pleasant View, at that esteem this past weekend. And really, I mean, they're doing a ton of construction work in there right now. That's part of the school money where they get reimbursed on 90 cents on the dollar. And so, the school conversation is a little bit separate than the city public property side of things. So really, when we talk about the public property budget and what we want to see kind of moving forward there, we're talking about how many centers, Stephen, that aren't attached to schools? 7?
6.
6 or 7?
Yeah.
But I think what we see tonight, when we took a tour of the court here, beautifully done. I mean, the floors came out beautiful, beautifully painted. Seems like the roof has been repaired. That's kind of like the gold standard or the standard of, I think, the minimum of what our centers should have. And so, I know the CIP is a way to keep on reinvesting in this, but I think, certainly it's one of those things that we can add to our list of continued funding to support the CIP and or continued maintenance of the recreation facilities.
Director, so is the facility master plan for rec center, is that like through public property then?
Yes. Yes. And we speak all the time about it. So there's a lot that I do know about the individual projects, if we speak specifically, but that is controlled by public property. And usually what that process looks like is, I'll give you a recent example, our scoreboards, right? We had to go through a huge project because a lot of them weren't functioning. And we can't make the decision on how the funding is allocated, but we can bring up the request and the concern, and then they work with us on how that is actually going to be solved. What actually ended up happening, because we were collaborative that way, there were a few centers that weren't on the same system as the other centers, and we're going to update those this year. But then we also updated all the equipment that's used to handle the scoreboards, which is great to have everyone on the same system. That happens because a director puts in a request, it gets to us, we look at it, it goes to public property at the same time. They come back to us, take a look at what it would cost and what the resource and need is. We go ahead and take a look and then decide on what the best way to handle that is collaboratively. And then that's when purchasing goes out and figures out how to spend the money to get it done. So that's typically what happens with a lot of the projects that you'll see.
Director Grace, how are the rec center directors involved in your budgeting process?
So typically, well, we started a lot earlier this year. So a few meetings ago, we started talking about the budget. And what we mentioned to them was, give us an indication of like what you asked today, like what are your needs, what are your high ticket items, anything that would be effective for your particular center. The feedback that we got was more access to the support funds and how that process is managed, but also
tell me what the support funds are exactly.
So given I guess what era you were in the Department of Recreation, there were individual support funds. So if there's a donation,
okay,
that goes to a center. So you went out, you got $1,000 donation, given whatever era it was in recreation, either that went into your individual support fund or went to our what we call general support fund. So the feedback we got when talking about the budgets was a better understanding and access to their individual support funds. And so that's something that we're making happen this year based on their feedback.
Director, do you meet one-on-one with the directors, or is it like the director meetings where you talk about?
Group meeting where we talk about that.
So obviously, we know facility is something that we want to keep on talking about, and obviously make sure there's enough funding to get where we need to get to. It's probably a Herculean enough effort to do it once, but certainly I think one of the things we should be doing is advocating for more funding for the continuous maintenance and repair of the buildings that we do.
Yeah, just a quick comment on that, Chairman. Yeah, I mean, we all know like how much some of our facilities need in maintenance, but I think an important role of this board is to hold all of us in city and city council and folks accountable to make sure that we know what the needs are, and if we can't address one of the, say a roof needs to be replaced this year, then we're looking continuously at opportunities all over the place to making sure that we are working on this and is working on that gets forgotten in the cabinet file.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah. Okay, so we know facilities is definitely one thing. We'll continue that conversation around what exactly we want to recommend there. The second thing that I think that we've talked about quite a bit is expansion of opportunities. For instance, the soccer league that we're doing, is there other programming that we want to be thinking about, that we want to encourage directive race and the rec department to do citywide or individually within centers? What does that budget look like? You know, to me, when we look at going through the process now, talking about the soccer budget, what that looks like. These are pretty, I don't want to say short money because every dollar matters, but certainly to run a citywide league for, however much it's going to cost to do, to be able to expand programming and get more kids involved with a $0 registration fee. Something we've talked about a lot as a group. So I open up the floor to you guys to talk about what you think about that.
Sure. I had a question around the most popular things. It seems like technology is obviously very popular within this center. Do all the centers have, equal access to computers and things that are getting the kids in every day, access to the homework and the food, the basic needs? Is that pretty uniform across all the rec
The
centers?
food is uniform, not the access to technology. There could be vast improvements in what access to technology and what the technology is in each of the centers. I would probably say, because we're in West End, the type of facility that this is in, or that it creates additional spaces to have a computer room, which is, to our right or my right. There are some recreation centers that just don't have that luxury. Kennedy being one of them, Sackett being one of them, right? So it's a different
A lot of them are
situation.
attached to the schools.
Correct, yeah.
They're not a rec center like this where there's different rooms. The ones that are attached to the schools in particular are, like Kennedy, for example, is the basketball court, is the cafeteria, the theater, the gym, the everything.
And a rec center.
And the rec center.
And a rec center, yeah, so it's four
Place
things.
where they eat the after school meal, it's everything, and there's no separate room like this there, for example, so that's one of the downfalls about things that we've called rec centers that are parts of the schools. They are rec centers, they do programming there, but they're not set up the same way, and we'll see that as we go around to the different areas. In fact, I think one of our next meetings should be at a different type of rec center, that we can see what the difference is between an actual rec center that have different facilities and rooms versus, being attached to a school that might not have that much.
Sure. I'm trying to think about what the draw might be for the kids that maybe don't, like the sports as much, and how we can, drive the engagement in those different rec centers.
Yeah, I think that there could be a way, like if you're a center that doesn't have it there, we should be able to create a place where you can go that's still within the recreation environment to be able to take advantage of that if you don't have it physically at your center. So that's something that we're working on, and what a place like that would look like, where, we have the rec vans, we can take kids over, they can do an hour of programming there, go back. So until we have facilities that can accommodate that, some of the ones that we mentioned, then we're working on that process and being able to create that opportunity.
What I want to see in my recreation is involved to the family, or the mother. For example, the mother or the father drop off to the kids, to play. For me, I would like to see, the library with the technology, with the computers, and the mother waiting for the kid, she can have some book or something, and then, because sometimes you have 2 or 3 kids, so what do you do with these 2 or 3 kids? It's only one play, soccer or basketball or something. So we have to create something for the family, because recreation is family, only sport. For me, I would like to see the library, very nice library, and a couch, and people computer because of the technology, and then keep, mother waiting, have to go back and forth and sit down and, doing something. We have some program for the parents.
Agreed. And so the way I heard it is, just more inviting and welcoming, and even physically what you mentioned, a space where that can happen while your son or daughter is, participating in a recreation activity. I think that's a great idea. Not something that I have immediately tackled like this year.
I'm sorry, we have the space, also we have the book. We only address a couple things and that's it. We don't have to get it, big budget because we have everything.
Yep.
Right now, everything over there is being in the show. No, it's not welcome to say, hey, this is for you. You can grab it, you can see, you can do it, too many things. Because when I go there, I see the parents to wait, what I need. We're not baby city.
Yeah.
We have to be involved with the community completely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
No,
That's-
actually, I'm glad you said it that way, because automatically I was thinking like, oh, what's the program that we're gonna do, for that? But then you quickly kind of said it doesn't have to be. It's just the message and maybe like how it looks, how inviting it is. Are we welcoming in parents? Hey, stay here. Did you know this is happening? So that's that's actually, communication and a little bit of just the culture in the centers too. So.
So I'll add more inviting spaces to the facilities piece of it too, because I also think that's one of those things where in conversations with outside partners, for example, the institutions, the universities, the colleges, if they have excess furniture, like Miss Lynn showed us, Ms. B showed us the room in the back over there, the movie room, and there was a bunch of furniture donated from Brown, which is nice. So maybe that's one way that we can also help get more, additional furniture and whatnot to make more inviting spaces, in our conversations with the institutions.
Just a follow-up question on that, Director. Does each individual rec center have like their own flexibility to partner up with outside partners like it's the universities, or how to things like they don't have to go through like rec department directly?
It's not like there's an approval process in terms of, there's probably some you can't work with every organization, right? So what we've asked is, on a form that we have, it's a community sponsorship form. And so that they just let us know how they're going to interact with that entity. So whether it be a financial donation, a program, donation of equipment or something like that, we just want to know so that we can document it and understand, what's been working and, who's been actually having those conversations, et cetera. So yes, they can. It's actually very, very much like encouraged.
Yeah, but but I think to Director Grace's point, though, just being sure it's all coordinated too, so that if we're asking for bigger things, it's all sort of incorporated into so we know exactly.
Yeah. And that goes into, I guess, this other point, which is, it's not just the centers that would be doing that. We're doing it at a main office level, where we're creating sponsorship packets and ways that, companies or individuals can support the Department of Recreation. So it's good to have that communication so that I'm not asking Brown for 100 desks and you just did too.
Yeah.
So we're just looking to make sure that we did, like I just met with Brown today, right? To talk about how they're going to support, Department of Recreation. Interesting answers about, how they plan to engage, et cetera. That's a different conversation that a student or a professor would have at a recreation center based on, remember, that recreation center's needs. So that's why it's good for us to communicate.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to duplicate efforts. And that could be part of a grander, available to all rec centers, not just one. So that's why we asked them to send that information back to us.
Thanks, Director. So I want to continue on the budget conversation. Expansion of programming obviously is one that we've talked about a lot, so I do want to add that to the list as a general, item that we can talk about. The other item that we've talked about a lot as a group is the accessibility piece of it, so communications, website, being sure the department has the appropriate resources to invest in whatever technology is needed to make our, to Ms. Lynn's point, how do we get the message out there more to the community? If that requires a budget around it, again, another short ticket item, that probably wouldn't cost a lot of money, but we do want to be sure, I think, that we want to include that in the department's proposal when it's put forward.
What would that fall under?
I think it would be a line item in your budget, Stephen, right? That would be a revolve around communications, or what's the line item that you have now as it relates to public outreach?
There's not a specific one right now, but it's looped in under what we call our stationery. And there's marketing materials that are underneath stationery in terms of our line items. So we looked at that to, make a significant increase in what we're asking for to be able to do that. With the addition of a media content manager that we got approved in last year's budget, there's a lot more communication that's going out. And so, we're looking at things like color printers to be able to do that stuff in-house. We're looking at other creative ways to get materials out, building a, what do you call it, like a community engagement like kit. So when we go into the community, what does that look like? What do we bring? What are the materials that we need to have? Everything can't be electronic, right? So we have to have some things like that. So it's built in under that line item so that we can do that. And with the media content manager, we don't have to necessarily pay someone to do that for us since we already have someone on staff. So you won't see like a social media portion of it since that's in their job description already.
And the other my question about is that I hear about it frequently, like vans breaking down, things like that. Does that come under the public does that come under public property too, the police? Or
So yes, and no, that's actually complicated. Public property manages our fleet, parks, fixes the vehicles. It is a little bit complicated for us to be able to handle that, but we don't do that ourselves, so that does not come out of our budget.
But does every center have a van associated with it?
Yes,
Okay, and are they all functional
yes,
right now? They're all
yes. We had two that weren't. No, just one. Zucolo's van had a battery issue that was happening for a long time, but it's fixed now.
I know you said,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Councilman Vargas first.
Oh. What I want to see again, because we have a couple of recreation for the whole city, is like changes for the staff. Because something can working here, maybe working in other places. So I know we talk about the technology, we will talk about the building, the fixing, the budget and everything. Do you have anything for the staff can be together? Like, for example,
Professional development.
we're here, she can go to the different policies, so we can have a little,
Like professional development,
Yeah.
peer-to-peer
Yeah.
mentoring type of stuff. Is there a?
Yes.
There's a. budget for that?
Actually, so I'm actually developing our training and development schedule right now. We actually have time carved out already that we have in our schedule where we all get together to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So right now, our training and development schedule includes things like CPR and AED training, peer-to-peer mental health training, simple conflict resolution, behavior intervention. We are doing a huge lifeguard one too for anyone that wants to participate. And there's a couple others that I'm just not thinking of, but it's tough because that wasn't necessarily like a line item in our budget to like pay for or do training and development. So we're addressing that this year as well in the budget so that we can provide more opportunities for it.
I would like to see that because you have very good staff to do what we need to do. We can have a, open mind and we have a very good program for each one. Because in here, I see a lack, I want to go there, so.
Yeah, I mean, this was you know, kind of by design too. I needed you guys to see the different,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have the design, but we can, implement it, something can be working, for example, for the technology, we need technology more.
Jenna, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question. I know, the summer camps, we talked about, having to potentially turn kids away because there wasn't enough funding. Where, where would you be able to see the biggest impact in terms of the number of kids that we can serve if funding was expanded more in that specific area?
Good question.
it's not necessarily funding as it is like a capacity thing as well. We can only have so many, kids that can either fit in a building or in a space, et cetera. So each of them does have a cap based on that, building capacity and et cetera. Where the funding would come into that equation is when you're talking about the standard camp ratio of 1 to 15, 1 adult to 15 children. And if we can take more children based on what's in the seasonal budget to be able to do that. So essentially, can we take 10 more kids? We'd have to hire another person. Is there room in the budget for that? So I think we'll be fine. But it's not like an unlimited, camper situation where we can just take everybody. There'll always be a capacity that we will reach. The idea here would be, do we have, facilities to be able to accommodate? Who can we work with to create more opportunity, collaborations, joint programs, et cetera, to be able to create more opportunity there if we reach our capacity.
And Director, the line item on that, I believe, is recreation seasonal salaries, right? Is
Yeah.
that where the summer?
Yeah, so the
program
summer
comes?
program comes out of the seasonal budget, but the seasonal is also our like part-time employees during the year,
Mhm.
which could be seasonal, like you work in the winter because of basketball, or you work in the spring because we have this event, and you work in the summer because of summer camp. So that's our seasonal / part-time.
Knowing is, just to add on to that, knowing there's a physical capacity, are we looking at buildings that have the capacity but not the demand, and then transferring kids from one location to another?
It's a conversation that's happened, but it is difficult because a lot of those buildings have their summer programs as well, that they're doing. So like, if we would do something with the Boys and Girls Club, like they do their own summer program as well, that they have their curriculum for, and what they're doing. And, some of them, it's kind of interesting. Some of them do get funding from the city to be able to put on those programs. So it's, they're creating a situation that's for the same kids, just in a different area. It's more of a city of Providence summer program, as opposed to me looking at it as strictly recreation. So I've had those conversations. I haven't figured out how to collaborate with them yet. It's going to take a little bit more work to understand how we can actually get that done. I did one, it was the PPSD one that we did, the summer school and summer camp in one. I've talked to a couple organizations already this year to see if it's something that we can do. Just haven't been able to figure out how to actually implement it.
Just quickly going back to programming, what are like specific areas that we can advocate on increasing funds for? Cause that's its own budget item, right? Line item
So
for
I would
programming?
say, so it depends on how we do the program. If we have the capacity to do programming in-house, then it'll be an increase to our seasonal budget to have the staff to accommodate the increase that we should expect from traffic because we're having additional programming.
So direct, I'm sorry to cut you short on that. So everything is under the season. So basketball is all under seasonal.
No,
That's all under that?
If we are talking about increased programming, it would mean increased traffic. If we're doing the programming ourselves,
Mhm.
meaning in-house, so
Right.
Miss Lynn, for example, has a program here. It's gonna attract 50 additional people. Well, to what she has now, well, we have to have the staff to be able to accommodate that.
Yeah.
So that would be addressed in the seasonal budget.
So
If we're talking,
that was my question. So if we're gonna, let's just say, we'll use soccer as an example, right?
Mhm.
So soccer is something we're expanding programming on. Will that, I'm looking at a previous handout that you had, I don't think I need to enter that, I think that it was previous. handout that you gave, that you have in my files here. And so what it seems to me when I'm looking at it is that the line item that covers all the expansion of programming in terms of like staff and people that you need to accommodate is under seasonal salary.
Yes, so
Okay.
the staffing for it would be under seasonal. So that would be one way we would increase. The other way would be under our programming expense. So if we need funding to create the programming, purchase the materials for it, or collaborate or hire somebody to facilitate the programming, that would be out of our programming expense. So there's two ways that you could look at it. So you don't necessarily, sometimes you don't know where that opportunity is going to come from. We try to get as much of that for free. But if there are good opportunities, we want to make sure that we do take advantage of it and have funding available to be able to, you know, do something that may cost us money.
So, my recommendation, when I'm looking at this, is what I like, the layout here is, it's kind of ambiguous as to what goes where in terms of like the seasonal salary stuff. So, you know, there's been some discussion about breaking things out even further, but I think it would be good to kind of, to maybe see in this budget that you're presenting. You know,
Yeah,
and
once we're
lay it
able,
out.
once we're able to, every department in the city is actually going through their budget
Yeah,
and creating the specific line items. So you may see something under the seasonal where it's broken down under summer staff,
okay,
referees,
gotcha.
this, et cetera.
That would
and
be much more.
as well as in like the programming expense too, to the best of our ability.
Right.
So you may see something in there that would be like vendors or contracts for programming expense,
Right.
as opposed to just a lump sum.
Councilman?
Sure. Last question regarding the programming. Something that we all are aware at this point is the lack of programs or opportunities for our girls.
Mhm.
Is there anything that we can do in terms of this upcoming budget to expand the exploration on such programs or? So I mean, we all know it's a need, so I mean, how do we get to the next step is kind of what I'm interested in. I don't have a rec center, but that's one of the bigger
Yeah.
concerns from the Jocelyn Center where a lot of kids from in my ward go to.
Yeah, so it's interesting because that's a question that we've asked with the directors, and you know, what is the reason we're seeing the lack of interest in females in the recreation centers? I'd say the problem is that if I were to give you like numbers on that, it wouldn't be accurate, because we're just now like starting that membership process where we get that demographic information. So I would probably say it'd go back to what we talked about before, is the communication and engagement, and specifically targeting a demographic to be able to like intentionally doing it. I think if we ramp that up, that would be the solution right now, is how do we increase those marketing efforts to be able to bring more females and girls into the recreation center. But I couldn't give you a definitive answer as to like why they don't and like how we would specifically address that with an increase in the budget. I just wouldn't be able to have like the information.
And during that, I know you've gone to a bunch of rec centers outside of Providence to kind of get feedback. Is there anything that sticks out that you see other cities or towns doing that we're not doing when it comes specifically to female programming or opportunities?
Not female programming specifically, but it kind of is very similar. So there's more intentional programming and allocation to all ages and, you know, all interests. So, you know, some of them will have like their range of activities and participation levels, you know, based on ages and like, you know, schools, etc. I saw that and thought that was really good because it invites, you know, other folks into the rec centers, and that could be something that could lead into more female involvement if you're working with adults that are able to, you know, help us with that process, and you know, collaborate on programming that will be attractive to females to be able to come into the recreation center. So that's something I saw. It's like the intention of being inviting to everybody, like not just saying you do it, but kind of listing that you do it as well. So that was good. And then I think some of the rec centers, like with their budgets, there's a few of them where it's like the expectation of supporting the rec center either through like a rental or usage. There's not necessarily like a question of how that process is outlined. It's pretty standard. And so it creates an easier access to the community to use the facilities. So there's certain rec centers that I saw that do a good job of that. So I'd say probably those are like the two major things that I saw that I haven't seen a lot of like great, like really like fantastic websites. New York's is good, but that's like their entire city one. It doesn't really break it up into a separate website. The
Town of Johnston has that.
the communication and and engagement. I think will probably by the end of like this year be one of the better recreation like presences, online and like kind of, community engagement and, what our website looks like and how it can be interactive with folks to be able to engage. So
That
looking
is the
forward
goal. We're
to
gonna hold you accountable to.
that. It's starting.
I know. Thank you for all your work. Councilwoman, and then we are gonna move to the next.
Yeah,
agenda item.
I know, because we talk about the budget. Do you think it can, in your budgets, it can be art class or something for the art? Because sometimes kids not like a basketball, soccer. Do you think we can have any idea or no ideas, any art class in the recreation?
There's actually a lot of them. We work with this organization called P3, Providence for Public Parks, and in parentheses Recs. They do a significant amount of arts and crafts and art projects that happen in the
Acting class?
recreation centers.
Any acting class?
You said acting?
Uh-huh.
Oh, no. Oh, my bad. I thought you said art.
Yeah, it's art, but it's.
Oh, and acting?
Yeah.
I actually, yeah, so performing arts, actually, no, I don't know a lot of programming that we have for like performance arts specifically. I do know that there is a way to get that done. I haven't specifically like me engaged in it, and I haven't heard a lot of it in the Department of Recreation, to be honest with you. So that could be either my lack of knowledge because I just haven't heard it, or that we're just not doing it. But performing arts, in terms of acting specifically, I haven't seen a lot of it.
Well, we had this goes to our conversation, I think about some schools too, but Hope High School just spent a lot of money on the theater in there, and it came out beautiful. I know that they're a very active new director of the arts in there. And maybe it's one of those things that I could really talk about. I feel like people that are interested in like the arts based recreation opportunity or engagement opportunity, it might be good to engage with this whole high school folks on that too.
Yeah, I mean, we have ACT, so arts, culture, tourism, like in the city, and I think it would like the question was directed specifically, like, are there any like acting classes or performing arts classes in the rec? And the answer would be no. But there are opportunities that, the kids go to PPAC and they go and support like performing arts around the city and get invited to go, etc., so they can participate in it, but nothing that I have seen like specifically in the rec center. So yeah.
One suggestion, my daughter's at the Fox Point Boys and Girls Club, and they run an acting class. My daughter's actually in it right now. You could see what program they're using for that.
Or if there's a partnership there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I have here to start our list is, facilities obviously is something we want to keep on the front burner. Expansion of programming. We talked about access to technology, accessibility and communication, so website, promotion, PR marketing. Talked a little bit about transportation, but that seems to be pretty squared away. Under expansion of programming, by the way, I marked down performing arts and things like that I might want to consider. And then the seasonal budget increase. Seems like that would be the area where if we wanted to expand camps or if we wanted to expand some of the basketball leagues or soccer, whatever. It seems like that's what it would be, but it also seems like we're gonna break that down even further potentially in this budget proposal. Am I missing anything, or did I not hear anything besides those items that we want to sort of initially focus on in this budget?
The family involvement,
Family involvement.
family involvement specifically in recreation programming. And the inviting spaces that.
Yeah, I put that in
potentially-
facilities. I had that on facilities into that topic. Any else suggestion or comments that we should focus on? No? Okay, this is gonna be a continuing conversation. So we'll, I think, Madam Clerk, if we wanted to do some sort of a resolution, or how do we document what our recommendations would be?
You could do it in a resolution format that the council members on your board here can sponsor.
But can we do a resolution as a board, or what can we do to make a recommendation? Is there anything?
So you can have your council members talk to the policy team to put forth those recommendations
Okay,
in resolution form.
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
or we could also document it in our meeting formally next time and take a vote on it, I would imagine. So if we wanted to,
I mean,
is there anything that we procedurally?
you have on your agenda, all matters appearing on the agenda are scheduled for discussion and or possible vote. I
Okay,
don't think we're outside of that, are we, attorney?
I don't think so.
So if you wanted to take a vote right now, you could. It's publicly noticed that you could be taking a vote.
Okay, well, if you want to do it in this, I think we'll save it for March, but I just want to know what our options are.
Yeah.
And that would be a formal sort of documentation of these are our recommendations that we're making. to the administration.
And you can put that in form to, have your counselors work with the policy team to create a resolution to make it more formal.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's helpful. Okay, Director Grace, update on basketball and soccer. So as we know, basketball is currently underway. I know the last game of the regular season is tomorrow, and then we start playoffs.
So, I mean, that's kind of the update, so. But,
You all.
yeah, so playoffs will run into the weekend, and then the championships will be March 9th at Providence College.
Oh,
So,
nice.
the other things I would probably update about basketball is, we had spoken at one of our other meetings about what was that engagement strategy for basketball and getting more participation in the leagues, because there's a lot of competition specifically right now, and how do we address that? So one of the things that we did was it existed, but we had the basketball committee in the Department of Recreation, which consists of a representative from each recreation center. So they've been meeting consistently every Monday since I'd probably say the second week of the season to think about how we're going to improve that for next year and what that actually looks like. So that's actually driven by them to make sure that we're doing some of the things that should happen when we're recruiting for the league. So I think when Ms. Lynn was here, she talked about like the schools that were around.
Yeah.
And how are we engaging them, and what does our competition committee look like? What are some of the rules for kids that want to play in the league, and do we need to address that? A number of things that we can do to improve the league. So that would be
Getting early registration dates and deadlines out.
yeah. So starting earlier, right? Like that's one of the things that we'd be talking about. In how we go about that process. So they're working on that right now and kind of formulating what that strategy would look like, and then they'll have the support of the main office to kind of see what is feasible and what we can do to just a better rollout in general for next year and engagement strategy.
And I told you, I'm gonna know this number or not. Do you know how many kids are playing in the basketball leagues now? Men, boys and girls?
Yeah, I actually, there's an updated number. So we're very low on the girls' side. So it's under 70 that we have for girls, and then for the boys. So between 110 and 150, give or take, that are in the boys leagues for, so that would be 10 under, 12 under, and 14 under. A lot of the teams have 5 players
Yeah.
to 6 players. And then that's not counting the biddy league, which had about 50 to 60 participants.
Yeah, we definitely want to work with you, next year, obviously, in your team to, help raise awareness and get as much of the word out there as we can.
I'm assuming,
Sorry. You were saying-
yeah, I can't do that.
What's the age group that the girls participate in?
They should participate in all the same age groups as the boys. So it will be 10 under, 12 under, 14 under.
Just a lot fewer teams.
Yes, and a lot fewer girls participating. So that's gonna be one of the things that we have to focus on next year as well.
And I think we'd spoken about an online registration next year,
Mhm.
where it's one single registration for anyone.
Yeah,
Essentially.
so yes, to the online registration portion of it, to be able to organize us. I haven't gone as far as saying it's just one pool yet. We haven't gotten to that point to see like what our capability of that is, but we actually have a team working on that right now. So I guess this would be the transition into the soccer league that we're gonna do. We're gonna kind of see what that online registration would look like and what the capability is for us to accommodate that. So that's the next step in what the update for the soccer league is. So the initial announcement went out that we're having one. And that is gonna be for age 5 to 6, 7 to 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10.
8, 9, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 to 10, I think. And we're gonna do something similar to that, where it's like a pool, and based on the ages and the demographics we get, put them onto teams. It should be free for everyone that's going to participate.
People are excited about the announcement. I sort of trolled a little bit online.
I was in a rec center today
Yeah.
and a parent saw it on the screen and was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, can I sign up?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, just about a week. We're just getting that together." But I'm thinking it's gonna be one of our biggest and best marketing pushes for a Department of Recreation, either league or event. We're gonna have a huge registration push, so online in a center that you can get help with. So we'll have iPads available for that. You can scan QR codes, and you can still do a paper process, but it'll eventually be entered online as well, so that we can organize the league that way. We don't have necessarily allocated money in the budget for it. So we have sponsorship packets that have gone out that we are getting some good traction on. So, next couple of days, we should have some answers on what that's going to look like. But it should.
Director, can you send, I know I have it because I've been asking people for donations already, but can you send it to the rest of the members of the board just so they have it visually? You don't mind? Thank you.
And are we promoting it as a girls' league and a boys' league, or a co-ed league?
It's gonna be co-ed.
Do you have like a goal in terms of money raised for this specific pilot?
For this,
What's the bottom dollar that we need?
we can look it up for you. Off the top of my head, it's like 23,000. Off the top of my head, there's an exact number that I can. Well, it's not.
The point we were making earlier, especially when it comes to the budget.
$23,550.96.
This is for how many kids, like?
Between 100 and 110.
You can put it even. 25. You think everything extra? Yeah.
I'm sorry, if I missed this. Is there a date that you're shooting?
We're targeting April 15th.
We'll start it off, or to start registration.
We're trying to start like probably next week. We have to. So we're just trying to get like the online registration, making sure that the league is already created in our online portal. So it's already there. We're pretty much ready. It's since we don't necessarily have like the funding like yet, I'm like 90% sure So I'm just trying to give it a couple days where I'm like, okay, green light on that, and then boom, registration. But you know, we're gonna kind of, you know, fly the plane and build it too on this one. I think we're gonna be good though. So I can't go too much longer because we have to start the marketing and sign-ups for it as well.
And will there be April 15th will be first day of practice, or what's it gonna be? Is it gonna be one practice per week and then a game, or how we?
So that'll be like when the games will actually start. We're talking about what it's gonna look like prior to that, to maybe perhaps get a couple of volunteer clinics to get them going. But you know, in a league like this, there's a lot of if you've ever done like a 5 to 6, 7 to 8. A lot of that happens while they're playing too, like they're getting coached while they're playing, to kind of figure out the game and the rules, etc. And usually like the younger kids for that age, those games don't even go longer than like 25 minutes.
But the 9 and 10-year-olds they're more competitive.
Yes,
I can see that for 5 and 6 and 7.
Yeah,
and 8.
so for them, it'll be a little bit different, like obviously longer game, etc. So depending on the age demographic you see. There's also an idea that depending on the time, I'm not sure of what our capacity is before the games start, that there's an open like clinic that any child can participate in before their games to kind of learn skills and drills. So that's another idea that we floated out there, but we haven't made a decision on one of them.
And with the registration process, are we also recruiting volunteer coaches?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be a part of the sign up.
Yes.
Because we talk about the budget, so we have a budget for the uniform for the kids to participate in that program?
No,
Who provide that?
I'm looking for outside funding for it.
Okay.
But it shouldn't be we're not gonna hold back from doing it, roll it out. We anticipate getting there.
Is this gonna be like a weekend game thing or
Yes.
a weekday?
It'll be Saturdays from like 9 to 12. For it's either 5 or 6 weeks. We're aiming to stop before like Little League, like it's really
That ramps up what, like in early June, late May?
May. Yeah.
Have you talked to Rhode Island FC?
No, not yet. I haven't even.
I did today.
Oh, did you?
In conversation for after, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my goal was to kind of talk to some of the quote unquote leaders for soccer in Providence. So we have a bunch of calls out to, the leaders of the Mexican Soccer League, the Guatemalan Soccer League, and a couple other organizations. Because I want to talk to them about what this could mean for the city. And this would be like the introduction. And we're doing this to kind of build some momentum into potentially creating this a permanent league and a free league for, soccer in the city, because we actually don't have one. So I'm meeting with them to talk about that before I go to any organizations. They may know someone already. So I'm starting local, and then I'm going to branch out and see where we get.
Last question regarding soccer, is there locations figured out for this league or is there?
We have 2 proposed locations here. Nice turf field, parking, accessible, centrally located, or Mount Pleasant.
Like
How about Marino?
like the Mount Pleasant football or like the space next door?
In front. Yep.
The middle schools do their soccer games there already.
Mhm. And you can have like 3 games going at once. There's actually already like nets and things that are already there. So it's a good location because it already has some of the equipment that we would need. And, we have a pretty good relationship with PPSD. So if we needed it, I'm pretty sure that we could be able to get it.
Exciting.
We need to
Thank you,
prepare
Director.
Marino Park.
No, we gotta
Thank you.
put some money into Marino too.
We're gonna work on that. I know it's the first time we're doing it, and there's a lot of new things for people to take on, and we appreciate it. But obviously goes to one of the goals that we're working towards. So thank you for all that you do and your leadership in the department. As always, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
The last agenda item that we have is public comment. And before we go there, I want to say thank you to Tina and Carissa for our esteemed clerks here, who this is our first road show. So thank you for making it seamless for us, because it's not easy to pick up all your equipment, bring it and whatnot, but we feel it's really important to be out here, so we appreciate you guys. For all that you do all the time, but we really appreciate you guys taking time to get us in order in a remote location, which I know is not, so. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
We have three, fresh air.
Even when the weather gets warm, we can do it outside.
That would be lovely.
It
Oh,
would,
that'd
right?
be-
All right, at this point, we're gonna open it up to public comment. If anybody would like to make public comments, please feel free to come up and have a seat. We'll just ask you to keep your comments to around 3 minutes or so, and then we'll be happy to have anybody who does want to make public comment. Anybody who would like to make public comment?
No.
Sure, come on, Senator.
Hello. I am coming on behalf of some of my.
Senator, sorry, just introduce yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. For the
Uh,
record.
Tiara Mack, State Senator, District 6. I've been in some conversations with a couple of my constituents about indoor pool space. I know, Steve, the director, and I talked about this a little bit, but I've had some more conversations ramping up. There's only one available, indoor public pool through the rec center, and there is an adult, swim league that is been pestering me, bothering me, asking what would that look like? I've also have some constituents on the south side, at the Davy Lopes Rec Center who've started murmuring about that would be a good space to also move to indoor. So just thinking about future planning, what that could look like to increase access year round to facilities like that. We talked a lot about youth sports and youth involvement, but adult involvement in the rec center was really left out. I, as a private citizen, use the field spaces for my rugby team. And there's also just some other ideas of like pickleballs picking up, I guess, like more popularity in sports. But those are the main concerns that folks have really come to me is spaces carved out for adult recreation in these spaces and improving facilities so that these spaces are usable for a variety of different folks. And then when adults feel more comfortable bringing their young people or bringing themselves to these spaces, they're more likely to bring the young people in their lives down the road. So those are my 2 cents. And
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for coming and for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate it.
Yep.
Are there any other public comments that would like to be made? Anybody like to make any additional public comments? Going once, showing twice. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, again, for another very productive meeting. We will circulate a draft agenda in the coming weeks for a March meeting. Given that the mayor is going to be introducing his budget in the middle of April, I think it's important that we get another meeting on the books before the end of March, so we can make some more formal recommendations. And we'll also be in touch about location. We'll do it at another rec center. And so I'll work with the clerk and the director to figure out what might be the next best.
Mondays are gonna be tough in March.
Okay,
We're dealing with another important committee that I believe both of them are on as well, so
okay,
we're gonna need to work with the
Creative.
group to find an appropriate night other than a Monday.
okay. Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, all 4 Mondays are taken.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we will
Yeah.
figure it out. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second by Councilman Vargas, all in favor?
hi.
This adjourns the meeting of the Recreational Advisory Board, for February 26th. Thanks, everybody.